How are you today? My name is Ayodeji Anifowoshe. Welcome to Great Father, Great Husband. I know it's been a while. We've been here, but trust me, um, a lot of things are going in the works, and we get to see everything in the in time. So, um, again, I'm here. We target a special session. It's special because, okay, yep, we're celebrating Valentine, but much more than that is to understand um, what to do in our relationships, in our marriages. That is more than just the Valentine's Day. And I have a wonderful friend and sister who will be here with us today that will be able to discuss some of the things that we need to know that will make our relationship get better, our marriages better, and then we can have a better community, society, city, state, and nation and the world at large. So join me wherever you're watching from all over the world. So welcome my sister, my friend. In fact, I should say my boss because yes, she's my boss one way or the other. Dr. Funto Oyewole. You're welcome to Great
Thank
Father,
you.
Great Husband. Is this the first time you'll be here?
Yes, this is my first
Wow.
time.
Okay. Wow. 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 You're welcome. You're welcome. We welcome you.
Pleasure being here
Yeah.
today.
And then let me say this for everyone I want to know. Our husband has been a long time childhood friend, and it's an honor to have her in the family. Let me put it that way. The family, yes. So you're welcome. All right, so I'm going to allow you to introduce yourself to people watching all around the world. Who you are? You can go ahead.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon. Good morning, wherever you are. Good night for some people. My name is Funto Oyewole. I am a clinical psychologist, and specialize with working with individuals, couples. One of my passion is seeing that the people of God, Christians, are in good mental health and that they are living their lives to the fullest in the way that God intended. So that's area that's very dear to my heart. Yeah, so that's just a short. I am based in New York, and yeah, I just enjoy doing the mental health work, working in the mental health field. I've been working in this field for almost 15 years now, thereabout. Yeah, that's a short summary.
Yeah. Don't worry. Whatever she doesn't say, as we move along, you get to hear from me. But much more than that is the fact that how she had been able to assist people, families over the years with what she does. So today is very important because obviously we know people. This period is very important when people say celebrating Valentine. But I just tell people, no offense, but myself and my family, we don't we don't really carry Valentine the way people carry it all over the world. Not because we are not sensitive to what's going around the world. No, but we are more sensitive to the fact that the love that we share is supposed to be a usual thing. It's supposed to be something that doesn't have any particular moment.
Right.
It's
Should be
it's
a
a
daily
lifestyle.
occurrence. Yeah.
It's daily. It's a lifestyle. So we don't wait for birthdays. We don't wait for wedding anniversary. We don't wait for anything. We just go into it and we enjoy it. So
Yeah.
that's what really. But still, in that many people still make that mistake. So right here today, we're trying to talk about how to manage our marriage and relationships, but especially to know if it's okay to seek for help and how to seek for help and when to seek for help and what kind of help one should be looking out for because we've seen a lot of things happening in marriage today. So I'll first give you opportunity. What's your thought? What's your own idea about what a relationship or marriage should look like in an ideal world?
Right. So thank you. So in an ideal world, a marriage should be a safe space, right? A place where you are safe to express yourself, where you feel comfortable to just be you without having to fit a specific mold, um, or trying to meet certain expectation that does not necessarily align with who you are. So a healthy marriage should be a safe space where you're able to you know, express yourself in a safe manner. You're able to behave in ways that align with your values, who you are, what you are about, right? Where it doesn't, you don't feel like you're being forced to be somebody that you're not. You don't feel like you're walking around in eggshells. You don't feel like you're not enough, like you have to show yourself in a certain way just to feel like you're enough for your partner, right? So a healthy marriage should be a safe space, should be you should feel protected in that marriage. You should feel like you and your partner have a the same values, you're heading towards the same direction, right? And then everybody, the family, even the children, everybody feels safe, like a comfort zone for you.
I like that word you use. That safe space. That's safe space. So would you say, with the way marriages are today, that okay, let's even not go too far. Can you say 50% of marriages all over the world today can be called a safe space?
Probably not. At least from my work and what I've seen around, many people are not. They don't feel comfortable. They don't feel safe. Or a safe space. When I think about it, I'm not just talking about safe physically, right? Right. So it's not, I'm just not talking about the physical safety. I'm also talking about emotional safety, where you're able to be vulnerable. You can really lay everything out on the table and feel secure that my partner has got me. Like, I'm secure in my marriage with my partner. A lot of people don't have that. I've seen people who are not able to talk to their spouses, whether it's their husband or their wives, about what's really going on with them, because um there's this notion of like it's going to be thrown back in my face, or it's going to be used against me one way or the other. That I'm also talking about that kind of safety. So, not when I say safety, it's not just the physical ones, also emotional safety, and even sometimes spiritual safety, where some people are not able to express themselves in spiritually as they would like to, because it doesn't align with their partner. So they're like it's like trying to, they don't quite fit well. So it's not a very safe space for them.
I think I think one of the things I've seen most of the time in marriages today is that people trying to fit in,
Right.
and then we also trying to look for people that we can fit into. Like, okay, this time of confession. So I'm a kind of person that I like to do things very fast, very fast, very fast, very fast. Like, I can prepare. As a matter of fact, I'm done preparing for this year's calendar. I know what I'll do in December because that's the kind of person I am.
Mhm.
So I was already in my brain like, oh, when I get married, my wife too. So I tried for the first year, at least for the first year, to put my wife in that same space. And
Mhm.
then every time I'm like, are you not getting it? You're supposed to be, but
Yeah.
I've forgotten that. No, 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 no. This is me.
Right.
She's different. And
Right.
the mixture of both is what brings the perfection that we need in a marriage.
Right.
So
And
I think,
what you just
right,
said, thank you for saying that. That's amazing. Like, we don't have to be, both parties don't have to be the same people to get along or to have that safe space, right? Recognizing that we're unique people. We have different strengths, we have different quirks, and acknowledging that and validating that is part of that safe space that I'm saying. Like, it's a safe space where you can be you, and we can kind of work together towards a common goal of making this marriage work, is staying committed to this marriage. Like, I don't have to change to fit in my husband's idea of what a perfect person is. Like, he can accept me just the way that I am. I can accept him just the way that he is, and provide that safe space for him to be him. And then we have this common goal of making this marriage work and staying committed with it, while also respecting our own individualities. um, it's not a right or wrong thing. It's a question of difference, and how can we bring that together and make a happy, a healthy marriage.
yeah, I think that is very, 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 very important, and which is one of the issues in marriages today. So another scenario is the fact that, so sometimes I picture some dresses and my wife, I'm like, this will be good on her. So I'll try it. I'll buy it the first time. She won't. The second time, she will try so that it doesn't look as if she doesn't appreciate. But later I know, okay. So and that's all that goes straight to the issue of love languages. Many of us are playing love languages that is for us on our
Right,
spouses.
right, right. Yeah, and I
So
tell the people I work with, it's like you speak in Spanish and your husband or your or your wife speaks Italian, and you're constantly trying to talk to them in Spanish. They have similar phrases that sound alike or mean the same thing. But if you're constantly speaking to this person in Spanish and you only speak and she only speaks Italian, there's going to be a lot of frustration. You're going to walk away thinking, "Oh, I don't feel appreciated. She's not even recognizing what I'm doing." But you also are not recognizing that, okay, maybe um this is not her love language. I have to step back a little bit and kind of just, have communicate, right? And that's one thing that's also missing in a lot of marriages. It's not healthy communication. There's a lot of talking, but it's not really effective or healthy communication.
so that will lead me to my next question. So what is communication in marriage?
So communication in marriage is really just it's not just about expressing how you feel or what you want or what's going on with you, but also having a back to the safe space. I'm going to keep saying that a lot. Providing a safe space for your partner, your spouse, to also be able to communicate their needs or their emotions in a way that they don't feel invalidated. They don't feel um, they feel respected, right? So, and communication is not just about talking, right? You also have to consider the nonverbal part of the communication, right? So if the way that I carry myself, the posture, the tone that I'm using to speak to you, all of this is also important. Paying attention to those things are also very important. So communication is not just about saying, talking, because talk, but sometimes the message is not even getting across.
Um,
Makes sense.
you, you can go ahead. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I just can't.
Okay, yes. You can go ahead. I think my camera just shut off, but
Okay.
I'm coming back now.
Okay.
So how do we address the issue of communication in marriage?
Well, people have to also learn to start listening, right?
Yeah.
I think what happens with communication is people are just interested in, I just want to get my point across. I'm very angry, I'm very frustrated, I'm very whatever the emotion is. And I really need to just get my point across because that's what that matters right now, right? Part of communication is also stepping back and listening actively to what your partner is also trying to say to you or what's going on with them, right? So communication is a two-way street. It's not just a one-way street. What we see in some marriages is only one person thinks attempts to communicate, whether they're very loud and and then the other person just kind of shrinks away, like I don't want to deal with you, just, or there's this notion of, you know, um, this person is the head of the family. Whatever they say goes. I can't say anything, right? This misconception of I can't say anything, whatever it is they say goes, whatever it is they want goes. Um, so in that way, that's not really effective because now you're just a one-way street. You're not listening to the other person. You're not letting them express how they feel or what's going on with them, right? With marriage, you're growing to know each other as you go along. You can never know that your partner, right? And one of the ways you get to know them, you get to know their love language, you get to know what's going on with them, what their dreams are, what their expectations are, what their values are, is by communicating and talking. But if it's only one person talking, then that's not effective communication.
Mm, mm. Okay, so uh, I'm sure many of these things will have been obvious before marriage. So walk us through. What do you think can be done from the point of either before you meet someone,
Hmm.
you meet the person, all the way to getting married? Uh,
Right.
and I think I will link this back up to the issue of counseling. What do you what do you recommend? Some people feel, oh, I will get a counselor when I found someone and we're ready to get married, and then we just got me the counselor. Yeah, counselor, so that we can get married and move on.
Right, 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 right,
And
right.
then some
So,
of us say that, oh, maybe should I get a counselor before I I I I even find any body? When is the right time? And also differentiate the role of, because people mix up this, the role of a marriage counselor
mhm,
and a relationship coach.
right.
Uh, so that people can know the difference. Go ahead.
Okay, so a couple of things. I think it depends on the person. So if you're somebody who's gone through trauma, who's coming from a broken home, who never really got an example of what a healthy marriage looks like, my recommendation would be to start therapy even before you find the right person,
Hmm.
to start
Okay.
counseling. This is years of so our childhood experiences, how we grew up, really shape who we are and our expectations and the point of and how we view the world, right? So if you grew up in a household where there was no healthy marriage, there's trauma, that we call it ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, is helpful to start therapy as you become an adult, to kind of process all the trauma that you've gone through, to process the unhealthy patterns that you've seen in your family of origin, so that you have some insight into how it's impacting you as an individual and the adult that you're becoming, and kind of let go of those unhealthy patterns and learn new patterns, right? And also, if you're somebody who had a healthy marriage or had a healthy childhood life, saw what a healthy marriage looked like in your parents, then once when you start to date and you think things are going to be serious with this person you're leading towards marriage, then you should start premarital counseling, because you may have had a healthy and safe and good upbringing. Doesn't necessarily mean that your partner that you're trying to get married to has the same kind of upbringing that you did. You don't have the same exact upbringing, right? And you're going to start life with this person, right? And a lot of people talk about this sentiment of, if you're going to be a doctor, you spend 18 years or 12 years or however many years to go to school, to
Um,
prepare for something you're probably going to work for 40 years or 50 years, right? And if you're going to get married, this is for your lifetime, so you should prepare before entering it also, right? You just don't go into it blindly. Like, I wouldn't go see a doctor who only went to 2 years of 2 weeks of of medical school. Yeah, I know what I'm doing. I've watched my dad is a doctor. I've been watching them. I know what I'm doing. Like, we wouldn't do that, right? So it's the same thing with marriage. This is a lifetime journey, um and you should really prepare before you go into it. It's not fun and games, as they, social media or media tries to tell us. Like, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of intentionality, and you want to make sure you're going into it prepared. So I would say definitely before you get married. And I'll tell you an example of, personal story of somebody I thought I was going to get married to initially. And then we started communicating, right? And one of the sentiments that the person had was, I'm the head of the family. Whatever I say goes. And like, that's a red flag for me. I'm like, I don't even have to go pray about it anymore. It's
hmm,
because my prayer is not gonna change you. Like, if you're not willing to change, and these are things that come up. First off, when you do individual work for yourself, these are things that come up for you, that you start to understand who you are as an individual, what your values are, what you're trying to look for as you grow older, and then also when you're dating or courting somebody, and you start there and you start counseling, these red flags kind of show up, and you have to really be honest with yourself. Is this somebody I really want to spend the rest of my life with? Right? And it's better to be single. How do I say it? It's better to spend many years to be single and really get it right, versus trying to rush into things
mhm.
and end up with the wrong person. The regret is much more
Yeah,
than that anxiety that you have when you're single.
yeah. Hmm. Wow, wow. So now, that my last question again. So people mix up the role of a
Oh yeah,
coach
yeah, yeah.
versus a
Relationship coach.
therapist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, right, right. So thank you for reminding me. So a relationship coach really is just somebody that kind of guides you in the relationship. Like, this is what healthy relationship should look like. Kind of A couples counselor, on the other hand, really, I said earlier, unpackage your history, like, the traumas, the ACEs, the adverse childhood experiences that are shaped into who you are. They help you unpackage those things and help you see these are how these things are affecting your life, and this is how it can affect your marriage. So they unpack it. There's a more in-depth work with working with a couples counselor or a therapist that's trained for that, versus going with a relationship coach. A relationship coach is really, I think, just kind of like on the surface, kind of like, this is what a healthy relationship looks like, versus a therapist or counselor really process what has happened, how you got here, where you want to be headed, kind of. So more in-depth work is done with the counselor.
Oh, good. So that means you fully recommend that people need to get counseling, because this is it. Okay, these are some of the things I've encountered. Somebody would just probably one way or the other maybe said to my hearing about, the kind of budget we have for our wedding is about maybe 50 grand dollars, and then you now tell them, they're not, can you help us and do counseling, and then like, um and at the end of the day, probably you not give them a figure, or you not give them a figure. This is what it costs. I'm like, what? I thought it was supposed to be free. What are you trying to do? Can you talk more on that, and how people are able to manage, those ends here and there? What would you say to people? Then also answering the question of some people, the issue of a pastor or a team in the church that are created a counseling, marriage counseling unit you go through. Do you
Mhm,
think people should stay at that level alone, or
mhm,
do you think they can explore, other channels that can,
mhm.
enhance them to
These are like
be
five questions in one.
please, yeah. I mean, please, it's all together.
Right. So definitely, I think sometimes it's a question of ignorance, right? When people want to spend like 100K on the wedding and can't afford to spend $150 per session for a few sessions for marriage counseling to get their marriage right. So the way I think about counseling or therapy is like, is putting shoes on. You can choose to walk barefoot everywhere. Sure, you probably get where you're going, or but there will be a lot of injuries and blisters and pain on the way. It doesn't have to be that way. Therapy counseling is like putting shoes on, helping the journey
Hmm.
work a
Hmm.
little better than trying to work barefoot, right? Like, I live in New York, we just had a snowstorm. So if you're trying to walk in the snowstorm and trying to get to your destination, you will have frostbite. You may lose some toes along the way. Therapy is like, it's like a tool to kind of help you make sure the journey is what's the word I'm looking um for lack of I can't think straight. For lack of a better word, the journey is much more functional and less pain on you and your partner, and you're getting to your destination um, better, in a better shape, versus if
Yeah.
you're trying to walk barefoot, right? So I think so. It's a question of ignorance. People don't really understand the priority of, let's prepare. This is for the rest of our lives. We can't just afford to just um, go in and Another thing I think gets people in trouble. Some people, it's not necessarily talked about, whether in their community, in their family of origin, their church, that these things are important, so they don't really even know that it's a thing, that we have to get counseling, get ready. So thankfully, I'm starting to see a lot of churches are taking that, or a lot of people are taking that seriously, that this is something you have to invest in. So it could be that. Other thing also is misplaced priorities. We want to do it for the gram and have the wedding pictures and the video, because we're comparing ourselves with this person that had a Dubai destination wedding, and you can have all the destination wedding that you want, but it's just a day thing. At the end of the day, the rest of your marriage is still ahead of you. The rest of your life is still ahead, and that's what really matters, not that one day thing. If that makes sense. Um, and then so the other question was, can people just stay with the church counseling alone? Um, I'm sorry, somebody keeps trying to call me. So I don't want us to devalue the church counseling thing, because they have their place also, and I think they can be valuable. So at least at the barest minimum, get that right. And for most people, these services are free. It's part of a department in the church that you go and get the help that you need. So at the barest minimum, get that. Especially, but if you're somebody coming from a pattern of broken marriages, like trauma in your childhood, you're coming with a lot of baggage, for lack of a better word. Then I would recommend you should go further than just the church counseling department, because there are a lot of deep rooted, deep seated issues that a counselor can, or a therapist can help you unpack, process, and then help you, you know, um, replace those unhealthy patterns with healthier patterns, and help you move in the direction where you want to be headed.
So I think I will redirect my question this way.
Mhm.
So I think many people, or let me say many pastors these days feel, because I'm a pastor, I think I can also be a marriage counselor. I can counsel people maritally, and it has one way put many marriages in some terrible space. So
Yeah.
what do you have about that?
No, because you're a pastor doesn't automatically make you a marriage counselor, or because you've been married for 50 years does not equal.
Or,
uh,
or because you have had four marriages, so you have experience.
exactly, doesn't make you an expert, right? Because you're an example of something doesn't make you an expert at that thing, right? I'm a woman, but I can't come and tell you that I'm a gynecologist because I know what it means to be a woman. That makes no sense, right? So a pastor cannot advertise that, or should not, let me not say cannot, a pastor should not advertise themselves as a couples counselor if you haven't really gone through the training and know what you're doing, right? You cannot use your marriage as a yardstick of teaching um, other people who are intending to get married as this is the model, because you yourself may be ignorant of the fact that your marriage is not even healthy, and then you're transferring this pattern down to upcoming weddings, and it's just yeah. So a pastor does not automatically equal marriage counselor. You need to go get the training, know what you're doing, and
Okay.
and yeah.
Okay, I think that answers the question. Now, getting into the very important question for today.
Mhm.
The question is, how when should we get help in marriage and relationship? Well, you mentioned that in relationship before you get married, that it's okay to get help. When should we get help? What kind of help we should get, and how do we get the help?
hmm Okay, so I've talked about people who are still single, who are not married yet, right? If you've had trauma, all that stuff, you should start getting help even before you think about getting married, right? If you've had healthy childhood and everything, once you identify this is somebody I do want to marry, start getting, if but before you decide, before you pick a date for your wedding and start making the plans, get couples counseling first, because things may come up in this counseling that you can say, okay, maybe I'm not quite ready to be married yet. We need to take a step back, right? So before you print out all the wedding invitations and pick out your wedding dress and all that stuff, invest invest in getting some couples premarital counseling, just to make sure that
Please say that part again so that people can understand.
before you
Because I've told people
day,
before, when people come to me for counseling, I tell them, I said, "Do you have a date?" They say yes. I say, "No, can't cancel the date because
right?
I'm not sure after this counseling if you still
Right,
want to get
because
married or
things
not."
things may come up that you'll be like, okay, I'm not quite ready yet. I need to take a step back and you know, and really fix some things. Or this person is not quite the person for me, right? And so you need to really um, get through all of that before you say, okay, yes, we're in a good place. Let's move forward. Let's pick a date and go. Now, if you're after you've gotten married, when should you seek help? I want to talk about the Four Horsemen by Dr. Gottman. He is a psychologist who's done research, a lot of research on couples and on family life and things, and he identified four things that we in the Bible talks about the four horsemen of the apocalypse, right? So these four things are kind of like indication that this couple, they're on the on the brink of it's not going to work, right? So if you're starting to notice any of these four things in your marriage, that's the time to say, okay, this we need to get help. So if there's constant criticism, whether it's verbally attacking your spouse, like you can't do anything right, what is wrong with you, like everything that person does, or vice both parties, there's constant criticism, um, then that's an indication that there's something wrong. We need to talk to somebody. If there's contempt, that's the second one: criticism, contempt, attacking that person's sense of self, insulting them, you know, calling them names like you're so stupid, you never do anything right, you know, you're worthless, you're not a good mother, you're not a good father, useless father, you know, things like that. If you're starting to notice that this is how you're communicating, it's fire on the mountain. You need to get help. Defensiveness, you're not humble enough, or you're not insightful enough to take responsibility for your role that you're doing. You're constantly shifting the blame. Well, I wouldn't have spoken to you that way if you came back from work on time. You know, you're not taking responsibility for your part in the problem in the marriage. You're constantly shifting the blame to your partner. That's an indication that there's a problem there. You need to get help. And then the last one is stonewalling, where you're withdrawing just because, like I said earlier, the people that are communicating because they're very loud and they think they're communicating. Meanwhile, the other partner is stonewalling. I'm like, I'm just gonna zone out and because I can't do this. So yeah. So when you start to notice these things in the communication, people are not this. There's no safe space. You feel like you're walking on eggshells. You're constantly feeling like everything you're doing is being criticized, is being questioned. That's a very big warning sign from Dr. Gottman's research. These four things are indication that things are going downhill very fast, and that should be an indication that you should probably seek help right away from a couples therapist or couples counselor. Also, when you know something is wrong, like we know, sometimes we know that there's something wrong here, this is not healthy, right? Also, don't ignore that gut feeling that something doesn't feel quite right. And if you're trying to communicate with your partner and it's not going anywhere, that's a good time to say, yeah, we need to seek help. um, so many people think of getting help or getting therapy like, oh, we're going to be going out to air our dirty laundry, and all those things. You're not. It actually requires a lot of strength to recognize that, and humility, right? And it's recognize that something is not quite working here, and because we're committed to this marriage, because we want this marriage to work, we're going to let's get help. Let's get help from somebody who can help us out and put us back on the right path so that we can keep going. Right? Sometimes there's this pride of, I'm a pastor, or, I'm the first child of the family. I have to show up like everything is, somebody I went to talk at a youth church the other day, and somebody was asking a question about how do we identify, because I said I was talking about having mentors that kind of help, especially if you're starting out as a young couple. And they're like, how do you recognize who should be a good mentor? Should you just go with the pastor? I'm like, no, because somebody is a pastor, a leader in the church doesn't necessarily equal uh, healthy marriage, or because somebody is always posting their wife, oh, couple goals, this on what you call it, on social media, doesn't necessarily mean that they have him. Just go off of what you're seeing. I've seen people come out, present this united front, everything is lovey-dovey, and then they get home and you're like, wait, what just happened? So don't use that as a yardstick. Let the Holy Spirit kind of lead you to who can we look up to as somebody, as a guide. But it doesn't hurt to also seek therapy if needed, especially if you feel like my family is no longer a safe space. I keep going back to this safe space, right? I can't come back. It doesn't feel, many of us who have healthy marriages, when you come home from a long day of work, there's this warmth, there's this comfort you get, like, oh, I'm going to see my husband, we're going to be together, I can feel comforted. Yeah, if you don't have that, if yes, there's a lot of anxiety about coming back home, oh, I'm just going to see this person at home, da, 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 da. That's a huge warning sign that there's fire on the mountain and you shouldn't go to sleep. It's that if there's fire on your roof, you don't just go to bed. Get up and do something about it. One of the ways to do something about it is seeking therapy. And when you are seeking therapy, I tell people, do a consult. Talk to this person, like consult with them. How do you work? How do you do, like what is your thought about marriage? And make sure that the values of the person you're trying to work with aligns with your value. For example, if you're Christian and divorce is not an option for you, you want to find a therapist that has the same kind of values that align with what you and your spouse are looking for. And because that person will kind of, you guys are speaking the same language, and on the same page, if that makes sense.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I spoke a lot. I don't know
No,
if I.
no, 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 no. The very, very, very important point there. So this leads me to very important question I'm going to ask next because it has caused
Oh,
issues
well,
a lot.
sorry. One more thing I'm also going to throw in there, when it's a good time to seek therapy, when there's a major life transition, right? Or there's something. So, for instance, if there's one of research has shown one of the things that breaks marriages apart, it's the loss of a child. So, if there's a major life transition like that,
Hmm.
whether you feel like it's affecting your marriage or not, is always helpful to get therapy to process that. So if there's something traumatic that happened to the family or to the couple, it's always helpful to just get the help of a counselor or a therapist to kind of help process what has just happened to this marriage or to this home, to process it appropriately versus trying to handle it or deal with it on your own. That was just something I was also going to throw in there.
Okay. So I'm going to ask this next question, which is very important. I think it has caused a lot of issues around. Is
Hmm.
the fact that so who should seek help, both of the couple or just one person?
Right.
What is the effect of one person seeking help versus the two
Mhm.
people seeking help at the same time?
Right. So in an ideal situation, you want both partners to be on the same page, getting help, right? But we do know some some of our African men. No, it's mostly men. I'm sorry to call you
Oh
guys.
yeah, yeah. No, 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 no. You're right. You're
Some of
right.
our African men or African pastors. Again, I'm a pastor's kid. I'm a
I'm a
pastor,
pastor, so I
right?
understand.
So I can speak from
Yeah,
that point
please.
of view. I'm a pastor. I'm African man. I don't need that. What are they gonna tell me that the Holy Spirit can tell me, right? So there's this pride. I think I don't need it. So ideally, both parties should consent to, let's get therapy, let's get help. It works better that way. Now, if only one person is interested, it could still be helpful, right? You have to understand that both parties are contributing to the problem in the marriage. It's not just one person, it's not just a one person thing, right? So even if it's just one person that's interested and starts to get therapy and counseling on their own, the changes that they're making as a result of the counseling can also make some difference in the marriage, right? For instance, so if this person, one of the parties, say, for lack of to make things easier, if say only the wife was interested and the husband was like, I don't have time for that, go do whatever you want to do. And from that, learning how to communicate better can change the dynamics alone in the home, just one person working on themselves. So ideally it should be both, but it can also be helpful even if one person goes, if the other person is interested.
Wow, I love that because sincerely, sometimes some couples, maybe the wife is the one that went to for the counsel, for the therapy, and uh, got a lot of gems what to do, come back home and might not be able to really interpret it well to the husband, and she's just like, oh, this is what the counselor has said we should do, this is how I should do it, and
Mhm.
sometimes it creates some kind of a commotion in the marriage.
So in that case, I would even not even talk to, this is what they told us to do, blah 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 blah, because now if the husband is really not interested, there's nothing you can bring back from counseling that he's gonna, right? He was like, I already told you I'm not interested. I don't want to hear about it. But you can start to make changes in yourself and how you show up, right? You have control over your behaviors and how you choose to show up. You're not able to control your husband. You're not able to control your wife. You can't make them be different. This is who they are. But you can make choices. You can turn things around and choose to behave in a different way that can also have an effect on your husband. Can also, it may not be as huge as if both of you were in therapy together, but if you're working on your side of things, it can shift things also a little bit. So it's not all totally a waste of time. It can also make some difference in the marriage. Remember, I said earlier, both parties are contributing to the problem, right? It's usually not a one person is the only culprit. Both parties usually sometimes have something that they contribute. Maybe somebody's stonewalling and not really expressing themselves. So even coming to therapy alone and learning how to communicate better, be assertive, and things like that can go a long way. Just by shifting your own perspective, changing the way that you behave can move things a little bit. It may not be as huge as if both parties were involved in the therapy, but it can still make a little bit of a difference.
Okay. Thank you for that. So, because the thing I've seen, so going back to the issue of men, um, I think uh, going back to the fact that if a man has not taken counsel at the beginning of the relationship or before getting into that marriage,
Mhm,
it will affect the orientation. So let me give an example now. I'm a man. I'm a pastor. Have I at any point, uh, reached out to anyone for counsel?
mhm,
Yes, I've done. In fact, I think late last year while we're preparing and planning, and then I was there was some issue I was trying to resolve, even within myself. And okay, let me just one of my mentors. So I think it's right here would be the best opportunity to let men know why it is very important for them to reach out for help. For example, now, the men that have ever reached out to me for help are people that have been close to me uh, over time. Meanwhile, I have tons of women that feel comfortable reaching out because uh, it has got so why is or let me say how can we manage that issue right now because of what is causing in marriages? How can we manage it to make sure that more men can
mhm,
freely reach out for help and
mhm.
not let things get bad before they kind of voice out?
So, if you look at women, we do a lot of conferences, right? Starting from the young girls, we do a lot of conferences, how to prepare for marriage and all that stuff. A lot of investment goes into women, teaching women to express and seek for help and things like that. Men need to do better. Um, So we need to start normalizing this. It's okay to get help. We need to normalize this notion that it's okay to get help. Like if you and I think it's still tied to the stigma, right? Where we think like if I'm getting help for emotional issues, it speaks about a failure, like I failed in a way of. But we won't say that to somebody who just had a heart attack or somebody who was diagnosed with cancer. We won't say just, man up, keep, suck it up, get up and keep moving. We won't say that, right? So we need to normalize that emotional issues is a real thing and needs to be addressed. So men, and I'm glad that you're one of the people in this space of talking to men that look, it's okay. It's actually a strength for you to recognize that this is not helpful or this is not quite working for us. And because I'm committed to this marriage, because I'm committed to making this marriage work. That's why I'm gonna get help to make it better, right? So if I'm sick and I'm having and I'm not well, I'm committed to being healthy and staying alive. Because of that, I'm going to drag myself to the doctor or the urgent care and get help. It's the same kind of thing with the marriages and emotional issues. Um, it's not saying I can figure it out by myself. It's not a helpful way to go about it. And the longer you wait, the more damage that you're causing, right? What tends to happen is what we're seeing is people wait till is like so bad. Maybe the wife is threatening, like, I'm just gonna go. I'm just, there's something drastic that has happened or has been threatening that will happen. Then they start to like, oh my God, But it doesn't have to get to that level. Once you start to identify that something is not quite going well, that goes back to my illustration that I mentioned earlier. It's like there's fire on your roof and you choose to, yeah, it's okay. We'll figure it out. No, you you get out, you try to stop it right away, because if you just let it burn, I mean, it's gonna damage a lot of things. So I think men, we need to start having more of these conversations, especially in spaces where there's this notion for men to be macho and men to be take charge and things like that. Part of taking charge and being a leader is recognizing that, okay, something's not quite well. Let me get help to help me be better, so that my marriage can be better and continue to be better. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for that. Because it's very important. I think that was one of the reasons why I, it took me so much to put this book together on uh, God's agenda for men embracing true manhood, and it really broke down a lot of things. What kind of issues things that we have made men to believe, or like it's not okay
Right,
for a man to cry, it's not
right,
okay for a man to ask for help, and it has created that mindset, and things will be getting so bad, so bad. And I'll give you an example. Just going back on the issue of when it's okay to reach out for help. I think when I lost my dad, being the only son, and I was out here, and I was okay. I was keeping up as a man. I don't want to cry. I don't want to cry. I don't want to cry. I just and then the first day, second day, third day. I think the fourth day,
mhm,
uh, the fourth day, we were about to start morning devotion, and
and then
without planning it, without preparing,
uh-huh,
the water started rolling out of my eyes.
yeah, yeah,
It wasn't like I was preparing to cry, but I tried to suck it out, suck it back. It didn't, and it just go back to the issue of you saying that don't wait, because by the time it gets to that point, you might not be able to control it. I waited, and at the point I couldn't control the emotion. That was it was just I couldn't control. I couldn't control the waters. It was
right,
just rushing out of my eyes, out of my
right,
eyes. So you just so to go to the point, complete that point that it's okay to seek help, and it's better to do it right on time. On time. It was after that point my wife felt okay. She seen this young man needs to talk, and we probably took a walk, and then she was asking me a bunch of questions, and then she was doing a therapy that way. So and sincerely, having the opportunity to voice out some of those things that was running in my mind kind
mhm,
of helped me lighten up the weight on me, and I was able to speak here and there. So I think that point is very important. So I think the other major thing I need to touch base on is you are a therapist, a counselor. Uh, how how can what's your role in what is going on around the world today, and how can you be of help right now?
right. So that's a good question. So a huge part of what I do, I mentioned earlier when I was introducing myself. When I was in grad school and I was working on my dissertation for my doctorate, um, I'm a pastor's kid, I said earlier, and I grew up in the church. I was literally born in the church. I think me and you were born in the church too. So we're literally born in the church. I've seen all this thing. So it was a burden on my heart. Like, you know, there's a lot of things that as Christians we're ignorant about, that is doing a lot of damage to us. So, and that was my area of dissertation. And from grad school, I had this burden in my heart to just make sure that God's people are living in good mental. So one of the things that I do is I go around to churches and just pretty much just educating people about what is mental health, why should you get help, right? Just demystifying the whole thing about what mental health is. I'll tell you a funny story. I was when every time I go to church, especially African churches, um, when I say, tell me about mental health, and people say crazy, blah blah blah, and I say, may you have mental health in Jesus' name. People like, I reject it. I'm like, no, I'm praying for you. I'm praying for you. Like, no, don't reject it. You know, so a lot of how do I say, a lot, there's still a lot of stigma, there's still a lot of myths. People don't even understand um what's going on, right? So a part of the role that I play is just the basic education, like educating people, taking away the stigma. And this God has put people like me in place, or people who are trained to be counselors and therapists in place, to make sure that you're living a healthy life, you're living life to the fullest. And you know don't it's kind of like my illustration earlier. Like, if you have a heart problem, you're not just going to sit at home and you could be praying about it, but you still go to your doctor, right? And get some kind of help while you're also praying. Let's do the same thing about our mental health, about stress, because those things have a huge impact on our physical health. If we're not well mentally, if your marriages is not well, it will take an impact on your physical health. Research actually shows that people who are in healthy marriages actually are well physically and have good health, versus people who are in unhealthy marriages. It takes a toll on your physical health as well. There people who are prone to get sicker and are prone to stay sick longer, versus if you're in a healthy and safe relationship. So part of what I do is this education piece, just educating people, and also so kind of demystifying, like, it's okay to get help. um and then also, I also do consultation, right? So I may not be able to walk with you individually, but I can help point you in the right direction. Like, many people have called me, like, I'm looking for a therapist. I mean, this is, so I kind of walk you through what the process look like, what questions you should be asking potential therapists, and how where to go about finding them. So that's kind of like what I do to kind of help play my own little role in this whole in what's going on right now. I hope that answered
Yeah.
your. Yeah.
So, what would be the best way for anyone to get hold of you?
Um, So I you can reach me at info at Hopestead Counseling Service. Oh, info at hopesteadcounseling.com. Also, my website is hopesteadcounseling.com, www.hopesteadcounseling.com. I am also on Instagram. I'm not a social media person, so you may not find me on there, but best way to reach me is send me an email, info at hopesteadcounseling.com,
Okay.
or through
So,
the website.
okay, we'll put it out. Then, so what you said, sincerely, to be a therapist, to be a counselor, marriage counselor, whatever. If you don't have the passion, you would not.
Oh yeah.
You can't even.
Yeah,
So
I think it's a calling. I think it's a calling. It's not meant for everyone.
yeah. On that, I said I did this education last year, and the time the old, I'm like, I'm not even doing a full degree. I'm like, this is a whole lot. And as I said, it kind of opened my eyes to so many things, as it relates to therapy and counseling on its own, and also focusing mainly on marriage. It's a lot. It's a lot. If you don't have the calling to, that's why I was saying earlier on that people should understand that being a pastor doesn't qualify you automatically as a
Right,
counselor, so that you
right.
can stay in it. And it's okay to refer people
Yes,
on things. For example, thank God for the laws that we have around um, people that have issues with with alcohol here and there. I I don't have that I'm not working on that field, so to say. So it's okay for me to refer
right,
to the right people. And thank God there are churches all around that have these centers where people that are sober can go, and they can get the right help that they need. So it's okay It's okay. As a pastor, you don't have to be, all around that you have to, direct
And
people
that's
to the
not
right
even
direction.
healthy for the pastor, right? You can't be everything for everybody.
Yeah, so that's something to also know. And going back to the fact that why we need to make sure that the home front is okay is because it affects every other thing you do. Everything. It's easy. People come out these days, but it's easy to know people who have a settled home when you get to work. It's obvious,
Right.
very, very, very obvious. The whole thing begins to show up. So in in uh, in your experience as a therapist, as a counselor, what would you say are the major triggers as we conclude? Major triggers in marriage that usually lead people towards the direction of divorce.
So lack of communication, we talked about that. Finances, not aligning, the values are not aligning, like, you know, um unresolved issues, like we're just gonna sweep things under the carpet and just keep it moving and not addressing things, and these things start to pile up. And I tell people, you can't keep sweeping things under the carpet. After a while, there's not going to be any room anymore and everything is going to explode, right?
Hmm.
As painful as it is to address things as they come up, that's much healthy. Either, I tell people, either way there's going to be pain, whether you address it right now or you keep sweeping under the carpet. One pain kind of leads you in the right direction, you heal and you move in the right direction. The other pain drains life out of you, right? So pick your pain. But it's not going to be smooth sailing. You have to, so unresolved past issues, finances, lack of communication, sex causes trouble in in marriage.
You can say
um,
that again.
Parenting challenges, not aligning in the same values. One parent wants to parent this certain way, another one wants to, not align, and things like that. So there are a lot of things, that can cause a lot of conflict in marriage. But there, one thing I do want to say is the conflict itself is not necessarily the problem, because there will be conflict in marriages. It's a given. It's usually two different people. There will some conflicts will come up at some point or the other. And really, I don't think that's really the problem. Is what are you doing with that conflict? How are you addressing it when it pops up? And that's where the trouble lies. How you're showing up and dealing with that conflict when it pops up.
Wow, wow.
And
Thank you.
I'm going to throw one last thing also, comparing your marriage to somebody.
That's
That's a
something
big
there.
that's a big one.
Well, thank you so much. Just on the point you mentioned about sex and some of the things. So, for that just takes me into, I just remember to one of the books that is going to be ready by tomorrow that we just pushed out was a myth on sex in marriage,
Mhm.
which is something very important that we struggle with. It's very important. So I just put it out, and then let me see if I can put up one of the. So I think one of the issues is that it's still back to the issue of orientation and counsel. So I think many people don't get the right counsel as it relates to this. So that's the book Myths About Sex in Marriage. I picked several issues that we go through in marriage as it relates to sex. The idea, this movie idea. Most of my wife normally joke about this, like how people want to make it look like son. And my wife be like, so when your spouse is not behaving that way, like what's wrong with
Exactly.
you? What's wrong
Exactly.
with you? So and I think many of the issues I found around most of these days, always ties around sex marriage. One of my friend, in the business told me one time ago, some time ago, he said that he they asked him what has made your marriage, your business. He does the business with the wife. They run the same company. He said, what has helped you to really do things well in your business? And the answer was so terrible in one way. He said that they have good sex in their marriage. Ah, And people were like, how does that relate
How
to
does
us?
that really?
Yes. But
Right.
that was it. So
Yeah.
I think it's a big issue. What can you say about that briefly as we round up?
Right. So it doesn't surprise me that people who have great sex are connected, right? Because when there's that physical intimacy, there's that connectedness, when we're intimate with our spouses, there's the oxytocin is released, hormone that draws you closer, that connects you with that person. And when you align with in sex and you have great sex, and this is constantly being released, you feel more connected, and you're able to feel safe and communicate better with that. I do want to say that though, like, that means both parties are enjoying, and they're on the same page about this, because you may one person might be asking for it all the time, and like, yeah, I'm having a great sex life, but does your partner, is your wife or your husband on the same page? Do they align with, are they also having great sex, or you're the only one just walking away from this saying I had a great time, right? Because that also, again, come back to that communication piece.
Yeah, that communication is very important. And I tell people here and there, I said it's okay to have that conversation at the end. Okay, how was it today?
Right.
Is there something that we're not doing well?
Right.
What do you think? Were you satisfied? What else were you looking out for here and there? So
Right.
which also took me to another level of the second book we are releasing tomorrow is the reality of Christian marriage, and we call it a reality because all of these lies that, oh, no, you should not fight in your marriage. Why
Yeah.
should no, you will have conflict, but
Or,
you
or
will
or they
resolve.
say you should sex should not be as important, and you shouldn't fight about that. That's like this. You're not being Christian enough.
And let me say this. So many demystifying some of these issues that are going around that, oh, that when you're fasting you should not have sex here and there. Please don't. When anybody tells you anything that concerns Christian marriage, please let them point to a place in the scripture without trying to misinterpret. The
Right.
Bible never completely nullify. It has to be an agreement with the two
Between
people,
both people, yes.
to say, okay, for this period of time, we will
Right.
shut down this part of my marriage, and then
Right.
we're going to resume at this particular point. So that
Exactly.
means if the other person saying, no, I still need to continue this whole ministry and session of regular sex the way I want it, then you have to keep praying until the person comes on the page. And sincerely, if God wants you guys to shut down that part, just pray. God knows how to touch the heart of the other person, and the person will come about.
Right. Yeah.
Then okay, so then let me just introduce the last book that we're putting out tomorrow, just before you get married, talking about getting the right counsel and all of that thing. We've kind of broke down a lot of things. I broke down a lot of things in this book, and just to let people understand the fact that there are some things that you need to understand before you get married, so that you know, oh wow, I wasn't told, I didn't know. But more than any other thing, I think one of the key things I have in that book is the fact that get the help you need before you get married. Don't get married because at the end of the day, sometimes, uh, like you said, some people are bringing things from their past, from their trauma, into the relationship, and then they bring it into the marriage, and it becomes an issue. Some people have gone through some kind of breakups, and the anger, the issues from it, they're bringing it to their relationship, and they want to torture the guy, like, because of what this person have done to me. And sometimes they didn't even plan it, but it's
Right.
in their
It's
subconscious.
yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if you want to talk about that as we conclude at this point.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Unaddressed trauma and unaddressed, baggages actually impact how we show up in our present relationship. And that's why I was saying earlier, if you're somebody who's gone through these things, it's very helpful to get help and process all of that, before you even think about let's get married, because it would impact how you show up. And one thing I do want to throw in there, a lot of people marry for the wrong reasons, right? You know, make sure that you're not marrying anybody to oh, they're going to change after we get married. No.
Oh, they will change.
Oh, I'm going to change them. No, absolutely not. Oh, I want somebody to take care of me. They're not your sugar daddy. Like if you're looking going into marriage just to be taken care of, this,
Get a nanny then.
exactly. Yeah, so that's I just gotta throw that in there.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't like how you point out. It's very important. So wrong. That's also part of the what I put in that book just before you get married. Marrying for the wrong reason. People just have this idea. I want a last name. Oh, my friend got married. I've been a chief bridesmaid for all my friends, and I'm the only one left. So I think it's very important to clarify all of that before one gets into it. Dr. Funto, thank you so much for
Thank you for having
this time, for opening up a whole lot of things, especially as it relates to mental health and people getting it right in that area. So, one last word for viewers before we close up the session at this time.
Yeah. So, lastly, I'm just gonna again reiterate that getting help or seeking for help is not a weakness. It actually requires a lot of strength and humility to recognize that this is not quite working. I need help to make my life better, to make my marriage better. Not everybody's going to get a supernatural healing, right? God has placed counselors. The Bible says in the multitude
To the
of
council.
counselors, right? You can't go wrong. So God has placed people in this role to kind of help make sure you have a healthy and fulfilled marriage. So don't be afraid to reach out and get that help if needed.
Thank you so much. And then this is a little bit short. We'll have taken it, but we'll just keep it just for now. And then hopefully we can bring you back again very soon, and then we can dig deep on some of these issues one after the other. Once more, thank you so much. Really appreciate. And then expect us very soon. Thank you so much, man, and have
Thank
a
you.
great
Thank you
evening.
for having me. Bye bye.
All right. All right, everyone. It was nice having Dr. Funto live today, talking about so many issues as it concerns marriage, getting help, getting therapy is not a sin. As a man, trust me, I'm not scared. I'm not ashamed. I don't feel bad getting help because it's for the best, it's for my future. It's to make things get better. So finally, as I go again, let me tell you, we have these three books coming out tomorrow. Meet About Sex in Marriage. Very important. You need to get the book. A lot of things. Don't worry. It's on Amazon. It's on Seller. I will see your name when you get the book. So don't worry. Don't worry. Amazon will not tell me your name. Seller will not show me your name. Just get the book. Help yourself. Get resources that you need to make your marriage get better. There's a lot of lies, and we are believing it. But until you counter the lies with the truth, so the truth will set you free. And the second one we have is the reality of Christian marriage. Pointing out the real issue in Christian marriage and how to handle them over time. The last one is for singles. Just before you get married, don't go and get married because you want a last name. That last name, you will soon throw it away because you'll find out that it's not what you think. So that you wouldn't get married. I thought the shortest marriage that I've ever heard about is people get married and getting divorced in 1 week. Somebody said no. Somebody said somebody got divorced as soon as they were entering the reception. Yeah, I've got that before. So please get the help you need. Read books, read books, read books. Very important. And these books are not another expensive. You can get the ebook, you can get the paperback. It's on Amazon. The ebook and the cover and the hard copy, and we have the e-copy on seller.com. That's SELELAR and also on Amazon. And let me round it up here today by saying that it is not a bad idea to get help when you need one. Again, my name is Ayodele Foshe. Until we see next time, Jesus Star is hoping to bring you something wonderful again. Don't forget, this coming Friday, Saturday, we have a prayer with me praying for families and marriages. And then in the month of May, we'll be having our first, just like Dr. Funto mentioned, our first men's conference. So get ready. Men's conference is happening in the month of May, where it's not going to be live on YouTube. It's going to be a closed door conversation on Zoom. The information will be coming up very soon. So get ready. Women that are watching, invite your husband. We need to have a closer conversation and let's get things done rightly. Again, God bless you until we see very soon again. My name is Ayodijani Foshi, and this is Great Father, Great Husband. Bye.